what it means to be successful. What does that mean? What does success mean? What does it look like? How does it pan out? I'm going to show you today how I'm doing that right now today to recover from a very horrific health situation called a hemorrhagic stroke that I suffered 2 years ago. So I hope you enjoy what I'm going to say, because it's the real deal. This is what I'm actually physically doing right now today. How you can be the greatest salesperson on the planet.
Welcome to the Rethink Sales Show. My name is Derek Kelly. I am joined by Jim Shorkey. And Jim, you always have great stories of success, of triumph, of overcoming hardship, of facing setbacks. So go ahead and share with us.
So I want to talk about something that I'm working on right now. I'm actually working on this right now. And I'm getting ready to do a presentation for PA Vet Pets and Omar Brooks, my very close friend. Omar is involved with us here at Rethink You 2.0 and Results from Thinking, and he's a very serious student. And so getting ready for this presentation that I'm going to do at the gala, I have been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of research and a lot of thinking and a lot of research. And it's just a repetitive thing that I do to try to figure out what do I want to say and how do I want to say it. One of the things that came up, and I don't even know where I got this at, but it's a book called The Way to Wealth by Benjamin Franklin. This book here was written in 1758. There wasn't even a United States of America back then. The Declaration of Independence hadn't been signed yet.
Wow.
There was not. This is before all that. And the book is called The Way to Wealth by Benjamin Franklin. It's a very short, it's an essay, actually. It's not a book. And I said, I'm curious about this. I'm going to get that book. So I got the book, and I read it last night. It's an essay. And it's chock full of advice. And that's really what Rethink You 2.0 is all about. And that's what we're going to be discussing today as well. Figure out what you want. Get very clear on that. Very specific, very clear, very detailed. Figure out what you want. And then figure out what your reason why is. Does your reason why for this thing that you want make you cry? Does it make you emotional? Very important step. And then you seek expert counsel to figure out what the steps are to get you to where you want to get to. And so you just start following those steps and you're going to move in that direction. And so let's assume for talking purposes that my goal today is to be wealthy. According to Napoleon Hill of Think and Grow Rich fame, I can't just say I want to be wealthy. I can't just say I want to have a lot of money. I got to get very specific, whether that be a yearly income figure, a monthly income figure, a total amount of money in my savings account, whatever that is, it's got to be clear and specific, okay? So anyways, so I got this book. I read it last night. It's an essay, actually, and it's very interesting. And then I was thinking about this, and I'm getting ready for this presentation, as I said, and I thought, I know there's a book that I have somewhere, and it's about compensation by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I actually went and found it this morning. It's called, the title is Essay on Compensation. I've read this hundreds of times. Essay on Compensation. What I did back in the day when I was bankruptcy imminent is I needed to get money. I needed to get wealth because I was in big trouble, too much month at the end of the money. And so I remember reading this book, and so I haven't started it yet. I just found it this morning, and I'm actually going to read this tonight. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a little longer. This one here is 70 pages versus this one here being 30 pages. So it's a little longer. So I'm going to read half of it tonight, half of it tomorrow night, come back to this, and then keep going through that process. Not because I'm trying to get wealthier, but because I want to do this presentation, okay? And so there you go. And then I was thinking about, again, seek expert counsel. And so one of the books that I read a few years ago, and by the way, this is not medical advice. Please do not do what I'm going to say I'm doing here. You got to do your own thing. But I read a book called The New Rules of Aging Well.
Oh, love that book.
Wonderful book. And in that book, you love that book?
Yeah.
Dr. Bruce Lipton, right?
Yeah, Bruce Lipton, MD. Yep.
MD, yeah. MD. I'm not an MD. I'm an old, worn-out car salesman. So I read this book, and one of the things he talks about in the book, among things, The New Rules of Aging, is this company here called Four Sigmatic, which this is a company that puts out medicinal mushroom strategies. And so I got involved with this, and I'm very serious about it, and I've been doing this for a number of years now. So I thought about this. I got this box here. It's called Four Sigmatic Think. And in preparation for this podcast today, and in preparation for the presentation at the gala, I thought, geez, I really do have to be able to think. And let's not forget, I'm a guy that 2 years ago had a hemorrhagic stroke, 3 brain bleeds, subsequent surgery. And I remember Dr. Rosellis, my surgeon, said to my wife, he said, I want you to know this is going to put Jim on his back. This is going to be very hard. And I remember Amy telling me that before the surgery, and I thought, yeah, I'm Jim Shorkey. Bring it on. And he was right. It was incredible, the recovery. But I never took my eye off of the goal and my reasons why that made me cry. I'm not going to get into that right now. But this is part of my recovery process, this right here. And so it's USA. Now, remember, I had 3 brain bleeds. So I got to work on my thinking.
Yeah, coulda, shoulda, woulda died.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda died. Oh, yeah, very bad. And my brain was damaged as a result of this. And so I've got to work on my brain. And not, again, this is not medical advice. So first of all, this is USDA organic. Okay, check mark. 4-Sigmatic Think organic high calf coffee with lion's mane mushroom and yacon. And it says mental focus and energy. So I've done 2 of these so far today, along with some other strategies. But my point is that this is something that I'm doing as a result of Seek Expert Counsel. And these are smart people. I'm just an old worn-out car salesman, but I'm doing this. And a lot of things. And when people talk to me, hang out with me, see me stand, sit, move, walk, whatever, man, you're amazing. I remember I was laying on my back in the hospital, and Dr. Rosellis actually came by, poked his head in the door. He said, Jim, how you doing? I said, man, I'm in a lot of pain. You nailed it, Dr. Rosellis. He said, well, you're going to be. I said, let me ask you a question, Dr. Rosellis. Expert counsel. This is our play. So let me ask you a question, Dr. Rosellis. What can I do to fix this? What can I do to fix this? And he said, walk a lot, Jim. Walk a lot. Okay, you're on. I'm going to do that. So I'm in the hospital, and over time, a few weeks, I guess it was, and physical therapy at the hospital and cognitive therapy and a whole lot of things. I now go home. Guess how many steps I've walked since I went home?
About 14,000 a day.
A little less than that. I just checked this morning. It's like 13,200. 13,200 steps a day average. And sometimes it'll go to 18 and sometimes it'll be 9. But I walk a lot. And what was I doing just now?
Walking.
I'm at 4,000 steps right now. And I plan on getting to 12,000 today. I don't know that I'll get to 13, but I plan on getting to at least 12. I got it in my brain and have a goal. Yeah, 12,000 steps. What's my reason why? Well, again, I can't get into that right now, but it does make me very emotional. I got to do this discipline every single day. So I wanted to just share that with you because that is a prelude to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, Jim, I think what you're talking about is so good because I was actually going to ask you a question about you've been around a lot of successful people over the years. What are 6 habits? What are 5, 6 habits you've seen people who are successful? What do they do? What do they live out? Right? You started to talk about that with Frank Littman, MD, with some of the other strategies.
Daniel Claro, I just came to book along with him.
So talk through some of those strategies for us.
I would say for the truly successful people, and by the way, I define success in terms of health, okay, which I've had my issues there, wealth, love, happiness, and spirit. So those are my 5 things that I look at when I look at the goal of being successful. I will say this. If you're healthy and you're broke, it's not my idea of success. If you're wealthy and you're lonely, that's not my idea of success. And so I want it all. I do. And I work on these different things at different times. So maybe maybe this week it's, you know what, I got off the health thing a little bit. Let's get back on that. Or the wealth thing. Maybe I need to double down on that. So I always am looking at trying to get better at these different areas. And so what do I know about successful people in terms of what I just said? They're lifelong learners. They read. They're curious about how they can make it better. So that's one thing. They're lifelong learners. Typically, they are very disciplined. And I want you to listen to that word discipline because a lot of people misinterpret what that even means. So when I go to expert counsel relative to my goals, relative to my goal, I need to find out what is it that I should be doing to hit the goal and what should I stop doing to hit the goal. And so I'm in the hospital, bad situation, hemorrhagic stroke, three brain bleeds, excuse me, shoulda, coulda, woulda died. And my goal became very clear. I wanted 100% stroke recovery. And so I went to work on this, and I intuited that there was a strong possibility that because of the brain damage, that I was a high candidate for all the neurological diseases, meaning MS, Parkinson's, dementia, leading to Alzheimer's. And so I started researching the idea of prevent. I don't get any of this stuff at all. Delay, it happens down the road versus earlier. And mitigate, meaning I get it, but I don't get it as bad as somebody else. I started researching that. And it turns out I'm right. I am a higher candidate for one of these type things versus somebody who didn't have a stroke. And again, this is not medical advice. But also what came out of that whole thing was I'm a high candidate for another stroke. Now, let me tell you something. This stroke, that wasn't fun. That was a horrible thing. It was really bad. I don't want to go back to that. So sometimes it's important to know where you want to go. Sometimes, yeah, I agree. But sometimes it's also important to know where you don't want to go. So if you want to go west, don't go east. You got to go west. And if you're going east, you got to turn around. So I really had that ingrained in my brain right now about the stroke, what it meant, the devastation to myself and my family and my children. And they were so upset and so worried. I should have died. It wasn't looking good. And so I don't want to go back to that. So based on all this research I've done, and I'm, again, thinking about the presentation to Omar's group, and I'm actually going to take my books to the presentation. I'm going to stack them up on a table to show them that this is what I'm doing right now. So am I going to recover from my stroke 100%? I'm going to give them my best shot. I'm going to get as close as I possibly can. And quite frankly, if I end up at 90%, pretty darn good number. And so I'm working very hard at this. And Derek, you can attest to that.
Yes.
So successful people, they're lifelong learners, and they have very specific disciplines that they follow day in and day out that they've gleaned either from expert counsel or maybe through which I don't like, by the way, trial and error. I don't like trial and error. I'm not a fan. The trials take way too long and the errors can be devastating. But the fact is, some people out there who are incredibly successful have gone through a process of trial and error, and they find out that this doesn't work, so they change, and they keep going through that process. And it does take a lot of time. My play is to find somebody who's done what I want to do successfully. They got to show me their credentials. And so I either sit down with them, or I join a group with them, or I get their book, I get their YouTube videos, whatever the case may be. I'm always looking at this expert counsel and trying to figure out what it is I need to do and what I need to stop doing. So I have a list that would blow your mind of things that I need to do to fix this. And believe it or not, there's two really important things that are like, they trump everything else. One is aerobic exercise. Getting out there, getting my heart rate up for a sustained period of time is really good for my brain. Two is reading, learning. There you go. Is good for the brain of the stroke recovery victim like I am. And I hate to use that word victim because I don't feel like I'm a victim. I really don't. I believe that I'm going to control this thing and I'm going to make it better. And actually, I decided back when I was in the hospital that I was going to use Rethink You 2.0 to fix my dilemma. And that's what I've done. And so I have list upon list of things that I need to do and that I need to do on a daily basis. Those are the disciplines. So to answer your question, they're lifelong learners and they're disciplined. And did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I think those are the two things I would really focus on.
Yeah.
There's other things that but if you look at those five things I said, healthy, wealthy, great love, great spirit, and they're happy. If you look at those five things and then what the strategies are to get to each one, then the list gets much bigger.
Awesome.